League third webinar on the topic of reimagining work and reimagining learning. I am Akanksha Mishra from People Matters and would take you through the agenda for today's webinar. We have privilege of having with us Frank Riccardi, Vice President and General Manager, Asia Pacific Region, Cornerstone On Demand. I would like to first you little brief about the L&D Leadership League. This initiative has been initiated for the first time to bring together the best-in-class practitioners in the L&D space. This is a People Matters initiative in partnership with CCL, Cornerstone On Demand, Great Lakes Institute of Management, and SEMA, which is aimed at promoting knowledge enhancement and development of this esteemed group. Now I will give you a little brief about today's webinar topic. As the topic suggests, this webinar will address how you can reimagine learning in context to today's workplace and will explore the different areas of learning and their application in holistic approach of talent management. Now a little brief about today's speaker, Frank Riccardi. He is responsible for the retention and growth strategy for Cornerstone Global Portfolio of clients. Frank has direct oversight of the client experience, account management, client success service, global care services, client operations, business process outsourcing, and product empowerment functions that are structured specifically effectuate the client success program. Frank brings over 15 years of management consulting, sales and relationship management experience to the Cornerstone organization. The partners for today's L&D Leadership League webinar are Center for Creative Leadership, Cornerstone On Demand, Great Lakes Institute of Management, and Chartered Institute of Management Accountant. They are help us making this program possible. We have saved time for you to ask your questions at the end of the webinar. For those watching the live webinar, you can submit questions at any time during the presentation through the Q&A section. We will try to respond as many questions as time allows. So we have a full exciting agenda for webinars today. So without any further delay, I am going to hand over the microphone to Frank. Frank, over to you now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the warm welcome, and I'm very thankful to be here today to talk about reimagining learning. And just the title in itself does beg the question, why now is the time to reimagine learning? And if I can just give me a second to pull up my presentation here. There we go. I hope everyone can see my desktop. So our topic of reimagining learning and this question of why now is the time to reimagine learning. Well, I think the reason is because learning is antiquated. And we have always been looking to innovate in how we deliver learning to our employees and how we as people that exist in the world learn and how we seek out learning as individuals and human beings. And today's agenda is really going to be focused on the topic of learning and in particular social learning, how to really build collaboration into your learning model within your organizations. And I think that's the next big challenge for we as learning practitioners in the world of making employees more effective and making our organizations more effective and able to achieve our organizational goals. So we'll talk about social learning. I'll also talk about some of the trends that are really driving us in this social direction. I'll give some examples and some use cases. Some of them are obvious, but some of these examples may not be so obvious. And the reason they're not so obvious is because they really begin to tie learning to other areas of talent management that we may have not have historically thought of as learning opportunities. and I'll explain what that means in a moment. I'll also talk about how we ensure success as we drive to this new way of delivering learning to our people. And then ultimately, what I will summarize with is just a quick overview of Cornerstone On Demand, and then we'll open up the floor to Q&A. You know, I was talking to one of our clients the other day, and we were talking about this concept of the next generation of learning. And the client made a really fascinating comment, and I just liked the words that they used. Basically, when we were talking about the next generation of learning and why we really do need to change, the reason why they wanted to change so badly is because not only did they believe that learning delivery was antiquated, but they ultimately wanted to increase the quantum and cadence of learning. And I thought that those were really interesting words to use, quantum and cadence. And what we'll talk about today will be focused on how do we not only incorporate social aspects and use social technologies within our learning programs, but also how we do achieve that goal of increasing the quantum and cadence. But let me start by giving you a little bit of background on myself. So you heard a little bit about me, but I think what I want to highlight is that I've been with Cornerstone On Demand for over 9 years. And one of the things that's important to me and to this discussion because we have over 1,500 customers. And you've heard that I am responsible for Cornerstone's Asia Pacific business, but previously was responsible for the first 7.5 years of my career at Cornerstone, was responsible for the global portfolio of clients. And so what that did was that really gave me the unique opportunity and the pleasure to see what those clients are doing around the globe with respect to learning and talent management. And because I've been able to see the best practices that clients are employing today, it's really given me a very broad view of what organizations are doing today and where organizations want to go. And one of the beauties of my job and my team's job is that we get to feed that information back into the innovation process within Cornerstone On Demand, which allows us to continue to innovate both our services and our solution set. So please do connect with me. I welcome your connections, either via email, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. My phone number's there. That's my mobile phone number, so please feel free to reach out. And, of course, feel free to check out our website to learn more about Cornerstone On Demand. But let me start by talking about what learning is. And if I asked everyone on the phone, describe learning, you may use words like this. Well, it's formal, or it's informal, or it's a continuum or a process, or it happens on the job, or it happens in the classroom, or it's delivered by teachers, or people have to desire learning in order to actually assimilate the knowledge. So many different ways to describe learning. And all of these ways of describing learning are true and probably will remain true for quite some time. But I will challenge you to think that there are even more words today to describe learning than there were a year ago. Focus on some of the trends that are happening in the world. But before I get into the social trends, I want to highlight a couple of other trends that really are relevant. So first of all, there's something very unique happening in the world today, and of course it's obviously connected to the prolific use of the web, of the internet, and not only use in our private lives, but in our companies as well. We use websites today that perform very, very well. In a few clicks, you can get exactly what you need. You can get information by going to Google, and what's most fascinating about Google is not only the algorithms that produce the right results for you, most of the time, but how quickly those results are presented. You get that little metric at the top when you search Google that says there are 10 million results that they've been produced in like 0.18 seconds. That's fascinating technology. And usually on the first page of your Google results, you get exactly what you need. You can make travel arrangements or buy a product online or book a hotel in just a few clicks. And not only can you do that, but you can actually use websites that search across all of the travel websites available out there to find the best deal. These kinds of technologies that we use in our everyday life they've become part of us. They're almost like an extension of our being. And by the way, we don't only do that on the mobile or on the internet on our PC anymore. We do it on the mobile device. We do it exactly when we need it, when we're just walking down the street. It's funny, I live in Hong Kong, and I would say as I walk down the street for work in the morning, 90% of the people are on their mobile device, generally not paying attention to where they're walking, assuming they're doing something productive. But the fact of the matter is that we have access to information and what we need instantly, regardless of where we are. And that doesn't stop there. It extends to the concept of social. So let me talk about a couple of social trends. So there's a social movement, as you know. Back when really the social platforms started to come on the scene, and they really were, they had an ultimate goal of really just encouraging sharing among people. Back in 2005, that was the primary purpose, connect and share. And then as we continued over time, we realized that we could actually capture knowledge and make sure that knowledge was accessible again and again and again when we needed it. And then ultimately what happened very quickly is that we realized that by connecting with people, sharing knowledge, and having a mindset of trying to achieve something in general, that what the social technologies allowed us to do was enable action. And so back in, this study is just a couple of years old, but it's still very relevant. Back in 2011, 65% was about creating action among collective groups of people. In fact, it created something we call the power of the collective. The more people that we could get together, the louder our voices were, and the more likely we were to achieve some outcome. Facebook, never before in the world have we seen movements, whether they be political, social, organizational, or individual, or philanthropic, whatever the need is. Platforms like Facebook, almost everywhere in the world, or Weibo in China, they're creating social movement, and the power of the collective is just that. It is powerful. They have changed the world. These social movements have changed the world. They have actually helped to overthrow governments in some cases. That's fascinating. So imagine the power of the collective within your organization when there is a challenge put forth, whether that challenge be to complete a project or to achieve some organizational goal. That power of the collective can be harnessed inside our organizations today as well. It spans generations. As you probably know, this is the first time in history when there are 4 generations in the workforce at the same time. And if you look at this chart, basically what you're seeing is the younger generation, the millennials. They were the fastest, or I would say the earliest adopters of social technologies, whether it be Facebook or otherwise. And in fact, they're starting to take a little bit of a dip because most of them are actually already using it. But look at the other generations, the baby boomers or the folks that were born back in the Great Depression, they are using Facebook or they're using other social technologies. And in fact, they're the ones, those generations are the ones that are growing most quickly. In fact, I always tell the story that my mother's on Facebook. My mother knows where I am in the world and what I'm doing because I posted something on Facebook. And she usually responds, by the way, saying, it would have been nice if you told me you were traveling to India today, because she likes to know if I'm somewhere out of the country. So it's just fascinating. So not only are all of these generations using social technologies, but basically what's happening is because everyone's using them, they expect these types of technologies to behave and act like and enable outcomes like they do in their private lives. They expect that in the workforce, and especially the youngest generation, the millennials. In fact, there are statistics out there today that suggest that when the youngest generation is entering the workforce, they're actually asking questions in the interview like, what are your social media policies in the organization? Can I use Facebook at work, or do you block it? And there's a very large percentage of young people today that would make a decision as to whether or not to take a job with an organization based on criteria that 10 or 15 years ago would have been unheard of. Like, can I use Facebook at work? Can I bring my own device to work, my own mobile device? So these are the kinds of things that the younger generations are expecting. So that said, let's talk about how that is all going to impact what we call social learning. And I'm going to challenge you today to think about learning in a slightly different way, not just delivering a course or an instructor-led or classroom-based course, or building content or delivering e-learning course. I'm going to challenge you to think about learning in a much, much broader way. So let's talk about the old way. None of this is surprising to you. The old way, and still relevant in some cases, but the old way is forced usually. It's very static. It's pretty formal, and it's usually where a lot of times there's print content that comes along with it. Now, a lot of that stuff has been moved to online, but it's still print. It's just static and it's online, maybe in a PDF format. And you're expected to read something or come to a class or take an e-learning course, and they're expected to retain it. And maybe you even test them on it immediately following that learning intervention. And maybe they test very well. But I will tell you that any gap or any time lag between intervention and actual practical use of that new knowledge on the job, any gap in time is going to very quickly decrease the retention of that content or that learning or that knowledge. And usually is delivered when absolutely needed. It's delivered because someone has taken a competency assessment and they've realized that they have a skill gap, and either HR or their manager is saying, you need to close this skill gap. Seeking training because they have some new project maybe that they have to do and they need more knowledge on that subject area. And a lot of times, and this is really problematic, organizations have offered learning interventions or courses to employees who come to that class and they already have the desired skills that are supposed to be the outcomes of that class. So there's not enough targeted learning, making sure that what we're teaching to people, not just because it's on some prescribed curriculum, some prescribed path, but that it's actually needed to achieve some outcome. And learning technology was pretty complex. and relatively unengaging. Now, I will tell you, over the last 10 years, we've all made a very concerted effort, all of us learning practitioners, to make learning engaging. And we've done a great job. We've spent a lot of money on very expensive e-learning courseware that's engaging, that has interactivity to it. We've brought subject matter experts into the classroom. We've tried to do simulations. We've done role play. So we've tried to make it very engaging, but the majority of it is still unengaging. And I would argue the reason for that is the more engaging the content, the more costly it is. And so we really are still and always will be constrained by budgets. How much money do we have to spend? Where should we spend it most effectively to achieve the greatest outcome? So many of us today are still, and it's not wrong, but we're still doing a lot of our content through PowerPoint slides that are just packaged up and posted out there as an e-learning course. Now, one of the things that we are doing very well is blending that into bigger curriculums where it's a combination of instructor-led and e-learning and coaching and on-the-job training and all of those other kinds of interventions. So we're doing a good job of that. The way is really about bringing social to all the great things we're doing already, to make it so that it is even more engaging. And by the way, it's the expectation. It's how we learn today. When you need to know something, I guarantee you, and I would think it would be an exception that anyone on the phone today, when they need to know something, that they don't go to Google and search for it. So the expectation is that you can get access to what you need when you need it. And in particular, again, the millennials or the younger generation that's just the way they do it. There is no other way. And we already know that employees learn better with blended learning interactions, as I just said. And I'm going to challenge you to even expand your arsenal of things that you will blend together, the type of interventions that you will blend together to make a really engaging blended learning curriculum. And as a result, the modalities are significantly expanding. It's not just e-learning or classroom-based training anymore. It's resources, it's tests and assessments, it's social learning, it's communities, it's being able to connect with people just when you need them, and it's maybe just an interaction and that's it. And you've learned in that interaction, and maybe you never need to interact with that person again because you got what you needed. So the modalities are greatly expanded. And workforce skills are being developed and sharpened in real time. Again, it's back to people today expect to get something when they need it, not before they need it, so that they can go spend time, or maybe in their mind even waste time, learning something that they're not going to need for 6 months just because someone has prescribed it to us. So we need to think about this in a new way. And ultimately what it comes down to is the new workforce is connected. It is a connected workforce. And in particular, everything is connected. Employees are connected to other employees. They're connected to knowledge. They're connected to their partners and customers, not only other internal employees. They're connected to their projects or their hierarchical teams or organizational teams. They're connected to their devices. They're connected to work in new ways. They're connected by skills. Imagine a scenario where you need to find people who have skills in a subject area that you need to find people with certain skills. So skills and competencies are now connecting people as well. Interests are connecting people. People who have common interests. People who not only want to find other people who are interested in project management, who can also join communities on that topic. So connecting people in so many different ways, in so many different modalities, so many different audiences, and so many different mediums, whether it be your PC or your mobile device, etc. So our challenge in our organizations today should be to think beyond just learning and look for ways to connect everything that needs to be connected. what that really kind of comes down to is knowledge. Knowledge management has been a hot topic for 15 years. We've always been challenged with how do you capture that tacit knowledge that exists in people's heads? How do you actually pull that out of the people's heads and get it, institutionalize it, house it, tag it, make it reusable and researchable? So it needs to be fluid. It's about empowering your employees to contribute content themselves. It's not just contributing what's in their head, but I'm going to talk to you in a minute about ways for them to actually contribute content that is, for lack of a better way to describe it, potentially a course that other people could access. Think of it as user-generated content, if you will. Imagine taking the concept of YouTube and allowing employees to contribute content like that could be either free-form and searchable or routed to the learning and development team within your organization to be assessed and evaluated to determine if that could become a just-in-time training course that's searchable in your course catalog, which is more of a more formal home for learning, the course catalog or the inventory of learning content. In order for knowledge management and learning to be fluid, we to ensure that there's instant access to it. Instant access to content and people. And content can take many forms, as you know. Could be a formal training course, could be something someone said in a posting like a blog. It could be user-generated content, or it could just be connecting to other people who have common interests or skills that you're looking to connect to. And making learning self-service, and my favorite new term is self-serving. Why do I say that? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's all about me. What do I mean by that? We're social beasts. We love to be connected with people. But at the end of the day, it's all about me in that someone inevitably has me a goal as an employee. Yes, I probably buy into the collective. I'm part of something bigger. My organization is a wonderful organization. Or maybe they think your organization is not a wonderful organization, and you need to really figure out how to change that. But today, when you're given a goal or a task, you simply need help getting it done. You need information, you want it now, and you want to expend minimal effort to get it done. And if we've hired our people correctly, those people want to actually deliver successfully. The ones who don't want to deliver successfully and don't really care, they just want to tick the box, that's a whole separate discussion, which I would love to be a part of with you all someday, address that problem. But for now, let's assume that people have a task and they need to get it done. They need to get it done quickly. They need help doing it, and they need to do it as quickly as possible. So at the end of the day, it really is about me. And then, if that's all true, how do you look at social in practice and social learning for the context of this conversation? So this is just illustrative. I just want to give you know all of these things. You've seen all of these sort of platforms or technologies before. But social learning is an environment. And I would actually challenge you to think that it's a platform that can produce environments. But ultimately, if you were to create a true social learning environment, a platform, you're going to need all of these kinds of things. Maybe not these exact examples like Facebook or LinkedIn, but you're going to need some elements of social networking within and outside of your organization. You need to find a way to tag content so that it's searchable and reusable and even able to be assessed for its volatility and how current it is. going to need to be able to bookmark things, to be able to get back to places that are your favorites or that are important to you. Share things, whether that be files or pictures or videos or whatever it is, to be able to communicate with others and collaborate with others. You'll be able to allow people to put forth thought leadership, whether that be blogs or podcasts. Maybe people to be able to be kept abreast as changes occur in these environments. When people post new things, if that's something that's interesting, I want the ability to be kept in the loops, whether that be like through RSS feeds or notifications. And you're going to be able to want people to kind of microblog, to kind of just say something that's on their mind or something that they need at that moment. And then there's some white space will come that we don't know about yet. But ultimately, in order for all of this to work, you need to be able to effectively search these things. And so I'm going to try to simplify this big chart. Oh, and you're going to need content. You could look at that as file sharing, if you will, all kinds of content. But let me simplify it for you. Here, I think, in a very simplistic view, are the core elements of a social learning program. First of all, you need a platform. You need something that is going to bring all of these elements together. And for those elements, once they're brought together, there's no purpose of even having them unless there's content that's connected to that platform, there's people that are connected to that platform, and there's the ability to search that platform. Okay? I even challenge you a step further in a moment. I'm not just talking about a learning platform, although that is the core of what we're talking about today. But I'm going to challenge you to think about that platform as a talent management platform, not just a learning management platform. Because I fundamentally, and Cornerstone fundamentally believes that learning is intrinsically tied to other talent processes, like succession planning, for example. And I'll give you an example in a moment. Or like development planning, or which is really a result of performance management. So the ability to assess people against their achievement of goals, or their performance review, or their skills and competency assessments, and generate development plans. And those development plans no longer just have to be take this course in order to fill your skill gap. So I'm going to challenge you to think about platform more broadly. Let's start by putting forth some use cases in social learning. So one is just-in-time connection to people or content. Well, what does that mean? It means I go back to if you have a platform and you have this unified search capability, there's no reason you couldn't search connections, content. And again, content could be anything. Could be training, e-learning, classroom, resources, documents, videos, blog posts, etc. So that is collectively content. What else? Use learning content. And I touched on this already, but imagine a world where you actually are no longer responsible as an HR or a learning and development practitioner to be the sole source of content development. Just for budget, creating an annual learning development plan and building that content to put in your course catalog. There is real value in being able to, as an employee, pick up your cell phone, your mobile device, your smartphone. Imagine I was presenting to you in a room today, and you thought I was doing an excellent job at presenting. Maybe you thought I had really good presentation skills, the way I move across the room, I engage the audience. Now, hopefully you do believe that's true. But the case, imagine someone in the room being able to pick up their mobile device, record me for 1 minute, and that as either a posting in my kind of Facebook-like wall so that people to whom I'm connected could see that, and you might comment on it and say, hey guys, here's a really good example of good presentation skills. Or you could even post it to a subset of your connections, maybe just groups you've set up like your project team. You could actually, if your organization allows it, submit that through a workflow process in a platform that allows it to go to the learning and development organization to be considered to be made a formal course, or at least an asset in a formal course. So now you're not the ones solely responsible for generating courses and content. Allow your people to do it. It's user-generated, it's crowdsourced, and probably 8 times out of 10, it's going to be really valuable. It's the way of the world today. We expect that. It doesn't have to be perfectly polished anymore. It doesn't have to be produced by a media company or a video company or a production company. It could be produced by us. Our cell phones are amazing today. Our mobile devices take incredible video. What about user-generated content? Leadership development programs. Now this one's a little bit, I kind of threw this out there because obviously a leadership development program is fundamentally founded upon developing our leadership. But one of the areas I'm going to challenge you to think about not just a learning platform, but a unified or an integrated talent management platform. So here's a scenario. Imagine doing your annual succession planning or your annual talent review. In your talent review, you are looking at maybe one in the organization or maybe just the top 5 layers of the organization, the top highest grades, and you are assessing them on performance and potential, say in a 9-box grid. And you know that people who have high performance and high potential are in the upper right-hand quadrant of that 9-box grid. And those are people who are high potential employees. So you need to treat them differently. They're hypos. They must be candidates for your leadership development program. If they are, you've identified them. You've actually put them aside into what we call a talent pool. And now you can actually assign development activities or development plans that are specific to that leadership group or that potential leadership group. You could even put those people into a social community as high potential employees on a fast track to commune and interact and socialize and share with one another that as high potentials. Imagine blending communities then into your leadership development program. Another social learning. Obviously, blended learning curriculums. So not only the obvious of not just e-learning in your and instructor-led classroom training in your blended learning curriculum, and tests and assessments in that curriculum, but also user-generated content in that curriculum, communities in that curriculum, other social groups that you could be part of in that curriculum. So I'll give you a very specific example. Imagine a curriculum on project management, and you, in order to be certified in project management, you have to take maybe 10 e-learning modules. Then you have to test and successfully pass. And then by passing, you have to take maybe 2 weeks of an instructor-led classroom course. And then after that, you've got follow-up virtual instructor-led or virtual training courses like through WebEx or Live Meeting or Adobe Connect. And then after that, after you've been through all that, you're automatically place into a project management community of practice that's social. It has members who contribute resources, members who are the most active, and you can see who's the most active in the community, members who contribute the most content. You contribute content, resources in that community, forums, blogs, etc. So blending all of that, but bringing community and social into the curriculum itself, and either allowing people to opt into those communities or actually forcing them through the curriculum into the community at a certain point. Or and that would be very similar to learning-based communities. The distinction here being, imagine being in a course. Maybe you're in a specific course on project management, and maybe that course is on risk management within the umbrella of project management. Well, there might be, for the the risk management portion of the course, a community that you need to be in that's just about risk. And the instructor of that course is the proctor or the owner of that community. So you are only in that community when you're in that course. Maybe you submit your, maybe you have to engage with other people in that community during that course. Maybe you can engage with the instructor. Maybe you even submit your assignments in that community, either for the instructor to grade privately or for others to give feedback socially on your deliverables. So there's so many ways to do that. That would be very learning-based or specifically topic-based communities. Or center of excellence-based communities. So imagine in an organization who is maybe a retail organization, maybe there's a center of excellence on selling and how to sell on a retail floor, how to sell clothing on a retail floor. Maybe there's a center of excellence that you create a community around. And this might be a little bit outside the box, but I'm going to challenge you to think about this as learning. Real-time feedback. So we're human beings. We crave feedback. And I think you probably would all agree that as human beings, every piece of feedback we receive in life is an opportunity to learn. If my boss comes to me today and says, I think that you did a really good job in your presentation, your People Matters presentation on social learning, but here are 3 areas where I think you could have either done, you could have expanded your content in those areas. That real-time feedback is an opportunity for me to learn. And I will challenge you to think that feedback no longer has to happen in a face-to-face or a phone conversation. That feedback can happen through social technology. I'll show you how in a moment. Of course, formal or informal coaching and mentoring, similar to the point above, coaching is a learning opportunity. Mentored because you either have a question and you need help, or your mentor is constantly giving you opportunities and ways to improve your career. And that also can happen not just face-to-face or over the phone, but also through social media. So this all sounds good on paper, but let me show you what I mean. So let's take one of those use cases, which is connect. I mean by that, I have a problem. My problem is my boss just came to me today and said, I need you to become certified in project management because I'm going to give you a very complex project and I need to make sure that you're going to follow project management best practices. Say, well, okay, I'm not certified in project management. What do I do? Well, I come into my talent management system. I go into my Google-like search bar. I type in project management, and all kinds of resources come back, just like Google. These are people who are either interested in or have experience in project management. On the bottom, there's training and resources that are associated with project management. Might be a course, might be a webinar, might be a white paper or some other resource or document. I want to connect with the person, so I select one of them. In this case, it's going to be, I know Rayhan has project management skills. You can see that down there in the skills section. So on Rayhan, I read his profile, I see where he is in the world, and I actually decide I want to connect with Rayhan, so I click connect. Now I've connected with Rayhan. And by the way, if I wanted to see everyone else also who was like Rayhan and who was also had a skill in project management, I could click on that little project management button down there under skills, and it would recalibrate my search and bring back those people that are like Rayhan with that skill. So I could look for more people to connect with on that topic. And by the way, once I'm connected to Rayhan, I could actually, once he accepts my connection, I can see on his live feed or wall, whatever you want to call it, what Ray's talking about. You know, he might be talking about things that are of interest to me. So now, once I'm connected to him, I'm going to see all of the things that Rayhan is doing, just like Facebook or LinkedIn. I can see some of the featured content on the right-hand side there that Rayhan has contributed. I could also see new people who I could follow who are like Rayhan. So it allows me to connect when I need it, and allows me to monitor Rayhan because I know I share common interests. By the way, I might even ask Rayhan to be my mentor. And then I can actually engage with Rayhan in private through these types of social media. Or one of those results on the bottom there, back when I did the search, one of the results could have been a community of practice or a community. And I could join that community. This community happens to be called the Client Success Community, but it could have very well been called the Project Management Community, where you can see there are forums, there are resources, there are top-rated resources that are trending. I can see the members in that community, and I can join it. An example of searching and connecting, searching for a topic or when I need it, finding people, finding training, finding resources, finding communities or groups of people. It's all back when I was talking about the trends. One of the things I said was that we expect technologies that we use today to actually behave like technologies we use in our everyday life over the internet. Imagine I searched for a course back on the previous screen. This one happens to be called Delivering Effective Presentations. Maybe that's what I was looking for. And this actually happens to be a user-generated video. And I could watch that video. Maybe it was the video that I just told you about that was recorded of me, and it was approved by the Learning and Development Organization to become a course. But this actually behaves like a business-to-consumer website. If you can see on the bottom there, you can see what other people are saying about this video. Just like when you go to book a hotel, you can see what other people are saying about that hotel. They've given this video 4 stars. And Josie has written some commentary, and so have other people below it, which the screen's cut off. But here's what's even more fascinating. Of course, you're not going to want to take the video or take the course if it's got 1 star, and that also helps the Learning and Development Organization to see which assets, learning assets, are actually being rated the highest. But also, the system is saying, just like when you go buy a new flat screen TV on the internet, the business to consumer website or the e-commerce website is going to say, well, people who have purchased that TV also purchased this DVR or this Blu-ray piece of equipment to play Blu-ray DVDs. So just like that, the system, the learning management system is saying people who have taken this course have also taken this course. And so it's making suggestions, it's telling them what else is equivalent to that. And actually look on the upper right-hand corner there, add to cart. Just like your website, I want to take this, I want to add it to my cart. So I can add 5 learning objects and I can check out. You see the little shopping cart there in the upper right-hand corner next to the picture. So it's behaving like the applications we expect in our everyday life. Why is that important? Because not only do we expect it, but it's going to allow us, it's going to make us want to use it because we know how it works. And then social feedback, as I said before, imagine the ability to be able to give someone feedback, either privately or publicly, that says they've done a great job or you wish they did something differently, or you posted actually a document. Maybe I post this presentation out there to my peers before I did it and say, hey, I'm doing this presentation today for People Matters webinar. Can you give me some feedback? So you can do all of that. That's learning. That is just an opportunity to learn. Feedback is learning. And by the way, you can even take feedback a step further by awarding people badges of honor. It's what we call gamification. So if I say Rehan did a great job, I might actually award him the Genius Idea badge. And that badge has skills associated with it. And then if that's public, other people can see it, and they can tell Rehan, yeah, that's congratulations, you did a great job, or even add to the feedback. And again, back to the unified platform, when it's time to come do the performance review, the manager can see the feedback that peers or project teams have given to someone and suck that feedback right into the performance review. And this is where you really get into the power of the unified platform. Now, is actually needs to be available on the mobile device as well. So while not social per se, it is a trend. And it's a trend you have to pay attention to, making learning available when they need it, wherever they are. So I can not only connect with people, but I can connect with training, etc. Important, again, back to the additional delivery modalities. How do we ensure success of these learning programs? Well, first, let's look at the things that are not seen as a barrier to social learning. Maisie did this study, is a learning organization, global learning organization. The thing that was the biggest barrier was the organizational culture. You know, savvy. The generations get it and they want it. The relationship with IT is generally good. Relationship with legal is getting much better. If we did this study 2 years ago, the relationship with legal would not be as good. Not financials that are the problem. It's mostly your organizational readiness to this. And I will tell you, here's the number one thing that I will leave you with. Deployed in isolation typically fails. Just implement a social technology which allows you to join communities or connect with other people. It's to fail. How do you deploy it not in isolation? What does that mean? Well, deploy it within the context of something bigger, meaning deploy it within the context of learning, within the context of talent, within the context of performance. Deploy it within the context of recruiting. This is all tied together. Social is the foundation now of the new talent management platform. And when deployed within the context of something bigger, it will not fail because there's an intrinsic connection to something that they need to do anyway. And it brings all of the things they need to do anyway, like training and performance reviews, into the modern day. It's the next generation. It's what the client I was talking about earlier said. The next generation of learning will increase the quantum and cadence of learning. But it will also change the way we manage performance. It will change the way we do succession planning. And it will certainly change the way we recruit. Make sure that you tie these things to business objectives. So define a business objective like productivity and make sure that you can deploy a program that's going to increase productivity. And start there and grow over time. Make sure that it's integrated. Make sure it becomes the place where people come to do their jobs. Why? Because remember, it's all about me, me, me. I need you to deploy something for me that makes me more capable of doing my job faster, better, and more successfully. Make it practical, right? First of all, get sponsorship and outside IT. Get IT on board, but get sponsorship. Make it practical for your employees. Make it easy for them to find people, find content and other assets very, very quickly when they need it. And ensure that content is relevant, right? If you're putting content out there, make sure that it's not old content. Make sure that it's relevant. And begin to slowly, over time, weave social capability into the very fabric of your business, particularly your talent processes, that will tie it all together. It is the fabric. Tax. Well, these are things that we know will happen. It will improve your onboarding. It will shorten your time to productivity. It will increase the quantum of cadence of learning. It will allow your team, your individual, and your business, overall business performance to be improved if done right. It will certainly increase employee satisfaction and retention, and I would even argue it will increase your ability to attract talent if you have capabilities like this in your organization, and it will reduce your cost to deliver learning because I'm going to challenge you to think about doing this in the cloud, and I'm going to challenge you to think about not only being the only part of the organization that develops content. Allow your users to develop and contribute content as well, because that's tacit knowledge in their own minds. So I will wrap up very quickly. I know that we're running a little bit over with who Cornerstone On Demand is. Well, first, we're a global leader. We are a global company with over 1,500 customers around the world. Our largest customer is 450,000 employees. Our smallest customer is 25. So we apply to businesses of all sizes. Our users, of the 13 million users on a single cloud-based application, those users are in 190 countries. Our solution is available in 41 languages, soon to be 42. And we have 13 offices around the world, including in India. 2, in fact, one in New Delhi and one in Mumbai. So what is the Cornerstone solution? Well, the scope of it covers what we call hire to retire. So it is everything from sourcing and recruiting new candidates to, once they're employees, onboarding them, developing them, managing their performance through goal setting, performance reviews, competency assessments, development planning, compensation management, succession planning, and then ultimately actually allowing you to deploy some of that learning and some of that social capability, not just facing your candidates and your employees, but also facing what we call your external ecosystem, or the extended enterprise, which really means your customers, your suppliers, your partners. Many, many, many organizations today need to stay connected with and train their customers and suppliers and partners, whether it be train them on how to use their products or how to sell their products, or being able to provide them with better support for those products. Of course, all of this is a cloud platform that's fully integrated. The beauty of it is, by the way, if you're just looking to automate and go to the next generation of learning, then you can just subscribe to the Learning Cloud. Or if you're just looking to automate and go to the next generation of performance, you can just subscribe to the Performance Cloud. But the real beauty is when you're ready to connect those processes, like connecting learning and performance, for example, it's all on one platform. So it's really just about turning on additional functionality. And so that's the beauty of it. It's deeply integrated. It's fully unified. It's 100% organic. It's 100% cloud. And it gives you an expansion roadmap, or a path to unified talent management that you can't get you can't get as easily unless all of these things are on one platform. And of course, all of this has mobile technology, superior analytics, and Connect, which is actually our integrated social platform. We talked earlier about the title of this was Reimagine Learning. I'm going to tell you that because all of what I just described is on a single platform, it's actually not just time to reimagine learning, but as you're ready to reimagine work. And this is probably the most strategic slide that I can talk about today, which is bringing all of those clouds, what we call clouds or groupings of functionality together on a single platform, recruiting and sourcing, learning and development, performance, and extended enterprise, but putting the employee at the center and surrounding all of that or underpinning it with that social fabric will allow you to reimagine work. What do I mean by that? Look, at the end of the day, right now in most companies, the talent management or the learning management capabilities are the places that people come once a year to do their performance review or 2 or 3 times a year to take a training course because someone said they had to. I'm going to challenge you to think of your talent capability or cornerstone in this case as a destination. It's where people log in first in the morning. It's where they come to get their job done. It drives their productivity and it allows them to accelerate time to goal or time to decisions. So remember, you come in the morning, your boss gives you a new project, you have no idea what that subject area is. You go into your Google search bar, you type a search term, it comes back with people, training, resources, communities. It's where people come to get their job done. That's value proposition. And I will argue that changes the dynamic and the role of we as learning and development and HR practitioners within the organization. It makes us extremely strategic and not typically the way that HR is envisioned by providing that capability or platform to get your job done better. And so it makes your talent capability a destination. You put the employee at the core. It's not just process-centric. Process-centric is something like do a competency assessment, generate a development plan, take a course, or assess someone's performance and then give them a bonus. That's process-centric. But putting the employee at the core is employee-centric. It's based on what they need to be successful. And it brings all of the talent management processes together on a unified platform, and it gives them instant access to what they need when they need it. And of course, it is social at the core. It's a foundation and a fabric of social technology that allows the talent management processes to converge in a different way, not just through data flow between the processes. Integrated social features, and it allows you to leverage the generational trends that are happening in the workplace today. Those young folks and even those older folks who are demanding that your enterprise applications behave like the applications that they use in their everyday life. And so this is the ultimate vision, Talent Management 3.0, reimagining work. And vision, but it's achievable, and it's achievable today. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can build a path to unified talent management that will allow you to get to this place. I just will really quickly tell you, because this was a learning presentation primarily, is in the cornerstone what we call Learning Cloud, which is one of the world's leading learning management systems. So it's obviously learning management, e-learning, ILT, virtual ILT, or virtual classroom. It's got a very comprehensive, one of the deepest feature sets in learning management today on the market. And in addition to that, we have 30,000 e-learning content titles available, already pre-integrated into the learning management system. It's social learning, so collaborative learning, communities of practice, and mobile learning. It's skill development, so certifications and skill assessments, development planning, and of course, even career management, which is the ability to look at your current role in the organization today look at a future role that you might aspire to, and allow the system to recommend development activities based on skill gaps between your current role and your future role. And of course, compliance certification management, which is usually either simple recurring requirements, like you have to take workplace safety once a year, or very custom and complex certification management, which is typically needed in regulated industries like financial services or healthcare, where you have to complete a lot of requirements ongoing every year to remain certified. So that's the scope of the Learning Cloud in particular. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for this time. I was thrilled to be here, and I would like to open up the floor for discussion if we have the time.
Thank you so much, Frank, for the session today. In the interest of time, we will not take the question and answer round online. We'll have the question sent to you, and you can reply them offline. So
I will be happy to do that.
Okay, so once again, I just want to wrap up this webinar. I want to thank you, the L&D Leadership League partners, Center for Creative Leadership, Cornerstone On Demand, Great Lakes Institute of Management, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants for happening this webinar. Finally, our special thanks to Frank for his time and invaluable information he has shared with us today. And I would like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. We'll come back to you with many more, and that concludes today's webcast. Thank you.